The DC universe is chock full of all kinds of aliens and gods, most of whom can beat up whole armies of bad guys without breaking a sweat. But who's the strongest of the strong? From otherworldly deities to extraterrestrial warriors, here are DC's most powerful heroes. Ethan Avery is an American soldier who volunteers for a program that allows him to transform into the Hulk-like creature Damage for 1 hour a day. For much of his standalone series, Damage finds himself locking horns with other DC heroes, and those confrontations show just how staggeringly powerful the man-monster is. In 2018's Damage number 2, Amanda Waller sends a Suicide Squad to stop Damage, and despite a lineup that includes such heavy hitters as Solomon Grundy and Giganta, Damage tears through them. He punches right through the massive hand of Giganta and proves too powerful for the power-sucking parasite to drain without overloading himself. Eventually, Wonder Woman relieves the squad and Damage fights her to a standstill too. The Justice League also gets a shot at Avery and Damage number 11 when, among other things, Damage is able to easily rip through the constructs Green Lantern creates with his power ring. The issue leads into a cover-to-cover battle with Superman and Damage number 12, which ends with Deadman interrupting the fight by possessing Damage. So sure, he isn't the most well-known DC hero, in fact he's one of the newest, but Damage is still incredibly tough, with the only real limit to his power being the temporary nature of his abilities. Shazam, the most powerful alter ego of the young Billy Batson, is said to possess the greatest attributes of a number of powerful and revered historical figures. In fact, the name Shazam comes from the list of biblical and mythical characters from whom his powers are culled: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. Whether he's literally able to get his powers from these beings, or if their names are just used symbolically, kinda depends on who's writing him. But regardless, he more than lives up to the hype.
I'm invisible! I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm invisible!
Shazam has long been criticized as something of a Superman clone, to the point that DC's precursor National Comics once sued Fawcett Comics, Shazam's creators, over the similarities between the two. Fittingly, Shazam's battles with the Man of Steel reveal just how powerful he is. One of the most famous examples is in the classic 1996 miniseries Kingdom Come. In this story, a manipulated Shazam comes close to killing Superman. Less well-known, but perhaps even more impressive, is 1999's JLA number 29, in which Shazam's strength of Hercules takes Superman out in 2 punches. To be fair, it's a surprise attack, and even Shazam admits he got kinda lucky. But the list of people who can KO Superman in 2 hits under any circumstances is still pretty short. Gal Gadot's movie version of Wonder Woman is one of the most powerful superheroes to have appeared on the big screen in recent years, but the comic book version is even stronger. Considering 2017's Wonder Woman ends with the titular hero defeating the war god Ares, it may not surprise you to learn just how often the Wonder Woman of the comics is forced to endure abuse from the gods. Zeus himself blasts Diana with lightning in 1987's Wonder Woman number 10, but she manages to survive the onslaught. She actually goes one further and knocks Zeus on his rear end in 2009's Wonder Woman number 33. Wonder Woman has also gone toe-to-toe with the most powerful heroes and villains of DC Comics, almost always giving as good as she gets. In 1999's JLA Titans number 3, with nothing more than her own strength and speed, she single-handedly stops a massive asteroid from crashing into Earth. Darkseid's son Orion has long been considered one of the strongest heroes in the DC Comics pantheon. During his brief time with the Justice League in the late 90s, Orion proved himself to possess might comparable to that of Wonder Woman and Superman, only with fewer manners and more ferocity. More than perhaps any other event in the history of comics, 2008's Countdown to Final Crisis number 2 proved the spacefaring Orion deserved a spot on the short list of the company's mightiest protagonists. In this story, Orion interrupts a battle between his uber-villain father Darkseid and a super-powerful Jimmy Olsen in order to take care of his father once and for all. Father and son wage an epic battle while the Justice League watches, and Orion not only defeats a villain most DC heroes wouldn't survive meeting, but he actually rips Darkseid's heart out of his chest, too. The Man of Steel was never quite as powerful as he used to be after the game-changing line-wide event Crisis on Infinite Earths, but he's still largely seen as the indisputable alpha male of DC Comics heroes. After all, there's a good reason why he's usually counted as the hallmark against which all other DC heroes are measured. Supergirl isn't quite as celebrated as her cousin, but she's proven herself to be just as powerful, sometimes more so.
She is every bit the hero he is. She just needs the chance to prove it.
In the second season finale of CW Supergirl, for example, Melissa Benoist's Supergirl knocks out a mind-controlled Superman. In the Crisis on Infinite Earths comics, it's Supergirl who defeats the villainous Anti-Monitor, although she does die in the process. In 2005 Supergirl number 1, she KOs strongman Solomon Grundy with a single punch, and saves the super team, the Justice Society of America, from the villain in the process. All in all, it's fair to say that Kara more than lives up to the reputation of her iconic cousin. Okay, so Lobo is usually thought of as an anti-hero at best and an outright villain at worst, but he has sometimes found himself allied with the heroes of DC, such as when he was recruited into the Justice League in the 2017-18 volume of Justice League of America. And in terms of his strength, well, there's the fact that he wiped out his own race for fun, for one. He has also gone toe-to-toe with Superman a number of times, proving himself at least a Kryptonian's equal and sometimes is better. In 1990's Adventures of Superman number 464, a drunk Lobo travels to the Fortress of Solitude to prove himself Superman's superior, and the Man of Steel ends the fight by faking his death and hiding until Lobo leaves. If an enemy does somehow manage to injure Lobo, it usually doesn't matter. The main man has regeneration powers that make Wolverine's healing factor look like a Band-Aid. In the second season of the sci-fi series Krypton, Lobo manages to physically regenerate after literally blowing his own head off. John Jones, also known as the Martian Manhunter, famously has one of the easiest vulnerabilities to exploit, a weakness to fire. But despite that unfortunate Achilles heel, he's still one of DC's mightiest and most versatile heroes. Although he's not quite as strong as his colleague Superman, Martian Manhunter shares many of his powers with the Man of Steel. At the same time, however, there's a lot Jones can do that Superman can't, which often gives him the edge in battle. A perfect example of just how formidable his unique collection of powers makes him appears in the 2000 original graphic novel JLA Earth 2. When the Justice League's evil doppelgangers arrive from another reality to wreak havoc on Earth Prime, Jones effortlessly takes out Ultraman, that reality's version of Superman. After that fight, you can't help but wonder if Jones could handle Ultraman's more heroic counterpart just as easily. DC's Dr. Fate is often compared to Marvel's Doctor Strange, though in many ways the comparison doesn't fit. True, both are powerful sorcerers, but unlike Strange, Fate isn't limited to just his spells. Thanks to the powers granted to him by the godlike being Naboo, Dr. Fate is also super strong, telekinetic, telepathic, able to blast his opponents with fire and lightning, and he can fly too. Of course, Dr. Fate does also wield a range of powerful spells. With his magic, Fate has traveled through time, raised the dead, and stepped across dimensions. Dr. Fate's connection to the world of magic also grants him access to the elder beings and gods who can cause so much trouble in DC's vast, complex universe. Considering even powerhouses like Superman are vulnerable to magic, there are few heroes in DC's comics who would want to get on Fate's bad side. The Phantom Stranger is one of DC's most mysterious figures, one who prefers to steer other heroes towards specific important goals rather than getting directly involved himself. What little is known about his origin has changed multiple times over the years. In some versions, he's said to be an angel cast out of heaven for refusing to take a side in Lucifer's rebellion against God. And in a more recent origin story, it's implied that he's Judas, cursed to walk the earth forever to atone for his betrayal. Whoever the Phantom Stranger is, he's not only one of DC's most powerful heroes, but one of its most powerful beings full stop. He has been shown to be able to manipulate time, travel across great distances without any kind of external aid, fire blasts of intense power at his enemies, and perceive things invisible to most mortals. Perhaps the greatest indicator of his power is the fact that he's often forced into direct conflict with the Spectre, and is usually the only single hero able to hold his own against the vengeful spirit. The Spectre is a cosmic entity who, in his most recent incarnations, is the physical embodiment of the wrath of God. Unlike many superheroes, the Spectre doesn't stop himself from more lethal measures and usually kills his victims in ways fitting to their crimes. However, the cosmic being needs a human host to act. For many years, the host was Jimmy Corrigan, and Hal Jordan of Green Lantern fame took up the mantle for a long time too. There's no true limit to the Spectre's powers, except that he can only do what's necessary for any particular mission. For example, in 1999's JLA number 31, the Spectre punishes the former superhero Triumph for his cold heart by turning the fallen hero's body to ice. But he couldn't just go around turning people to ice for no reason. Unfortunately, this near omnipotence is part of what makes the Spectre so problematic. One of the more famous examples is from 1993's Spectre number 13, when he judged the fictional nation of Latava guilty of ethnic cleansing and wiped out the entire country. In more recent years, the Spectre sparked 2005's Day of Vengeance event, when the manipulative supervillain Eclipso convinced him all magic and reality must be annihilated. Among other things, the Spectre ended up destroying the Rock of Eternity, the source of Shazam's powers. In both Watchmen and Doomsday Clock, Dr. Manhattan proves capable of just about anything.
Nations around the world still reeling from this morning's announcement, possibly the most significant event in recent history. The Superman exists, and he is American.
In his appearances during these stories, Manhattan is capable of growing taller than mountains, destroys his enemies with little more than a thought, and can survive pretty much anything. And he's more than capable of performing similar feats in the 2019 HBO series Watchmen. But it's this power that can also make Dr. Manhattan so frustrating. As many characters point out in the HBO series, Manhattan could have changed the world for the better on a global scale, but he doesn't. Ironically, in spite of his power, Manhattan is trapped by it. This is because Manhattan experiences time in a non-linear fashion. He experiences the present, past, and future all at once. So if you were to ask him, for example, why he doesn't wipe out global hunger with a flick of his wrist, he would likely tell you that he doesn't wipe out hunger because he doesn't wipe out hunger. The idea that he could change the future he already experiences never seems to occur to him. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.